Hey, let's call the meeting in order and let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the
United States of America
and to the
republic
republic for which it
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
for God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you would, may I please have a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Maglio.
I am here.
Trustee Berkshire.
Here.
Trustee Domke.
I'm here.
Trustee Eichholz.
Here.
Trustee Poleski.
Here.
Trustee Sarno.
Here.
Trustee Trejo.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Ready? The village board will be being held virtually because of the pandemic, and it will be able to be viewed on the village's YouTube channel. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments this evening?
Yes, we do. I have 5 public comments for tonight's meeting, and I'm not sure if we're going to have some other ones might pop up in the chat, so we'll keep an eye on that. Your first public comment is from Laura Sawicki, and she states, "It is clear from attending the Building and Zoning Commission meeting and listening to the last village board meeting that village officials are already planning to approve and build this project and not address any of the concerns raised by the residents in relation to this project. They have already taken various steps to lay the groundwork for the project. I reiterate my objection to the density of this project. It is too intense for this area of the village, and reducing its size to 3 floors instead of 5 would be better to suit this area, and hopefully reduce the traffic issues this project will cause at Irving Park in Lawrence. With that being said, I suggest that the village have an independent engineer monitor the construction of the parking garage that the village will be taking over once completed. I have managed retail and mixed-use projects for many years in various states, as well as downtown Chicago, with parking garages where the garage did not have ongoing maintenance issues. From leaks to cracks, you can count on the fact that there will be ongoing maintenance, especially if shortcuts are taken by the developer or the garage is improperly constructed." The end of her comments. All right, the next comment is from Michelle Hatter Downing, and it is regarding the Metro 19 project. She states, "I am very concerned about this Metro 19 apartment complex. The building and the garage are too big for the already congested area. The traffic there is awful. Turning at the light at Irving and Lawrence is very tight. I live less than a block away, and I believe this will have a negative impact on mine and neighbors' home lives. Roselle has plenty of apartments already. We do not need more. This will definitely be a huge eyesore to the community. Please leave Roselle the way it is." And the third comment is from a Christina Guzman, again on the Metro apartment project. She states, "I am writing to express my concerns about the planned development in Roselle at Lawrence and Irving. I am not alone in these concerns, and I have contacted the board on other occasions regarding this. Many residents feel the same way I do, and it has been discussed on social media. While there have been a few in favor of it, the majority have been against it. Please recognize that some of us will pay close attention to how this plan is voted upon, and that it will reflect in any votes cast in the future for village appointments. We will vote for those who reflect the voice of the people in Roselle and what is best for the community. These are the common sentiments of many living in this village, including my own. The area is too small for this large of a complex, even though the developers insist it will fit well. The corner is too congested. The developers claim there is no congestion based on their study of February of last year. and that remedying the problem by fixing the intersection would not be in their plan. Instead, they suggested it would fall on the village to deal with that at a later date, if it turned out to be problematic. We all know this study is flawed. The area is congested and has been. I lived at the complex across the street, Chateau, for 8 years, and has been a struggle. Since COVID and lockdowns, it has eased up, but eventually the lockdown will end. Add several hundred more residents to that corner, and it will be a dangerous mess. Road work will cost the village time and money to fix and result in a headache to the area residents. It's just too much in one small area. We do not understand why this project needs to be as high, 5 stories, or as many units with so few spaces per unit other than for potential income and not at all for beautification. Roselle, as I have understood from watching village meetings, has been doing well financially. Therefore, does Roselle really need this project, or do they just want it? There is a difference between needing and wanting. Honestly, the plan is an unattractive complex, simply a giant eyesore. The developers showed their other previous projects of the past, and they were actually quite nice. This, however, looks like a large carousel, a jail, dumped on a beautiful horizon.
We'll send in.
Another concern is why apartments instead of condos or businesses that we can use. In a few years down the road, apartments are trashed due to a high rate of turnover. These have a lot of amenities, however. The developer did not have a clear answer of how it would be regularly maintained and continue to be maintained for years. They gave a miserly response to snow removal plans, where water from their pool would go, and trash pickup services. They said that they'd have regular maintenance, but didn't give detail that was convincing to me. All apartment complexes promise proper maintenance, and then a year or two down the road, maintenance fees goes up and building structure goes down. The developers claimed that they would aim to rent to young adults. We would be kidding ourselves to think that younger people who will want to live this close to a train would be wanting to stay long and continue to take good care of their units. Many would live there perhaps a year or two, then move out. If maintenance doesn't keep up, it will become dilapidated from overuse and constant turnover. Young people eventually want larger parties, have friends over, may end up having children or relationships, adding more people, and then moving out, leaving behind units that need to be painted, cleaned, and repaired after each move. Comparing to the condos across the street where I lived, 90% of them are now apartments as the condo unit owners moved out and sold to property owners who now rent out most of the units due to the housing crisis and increased special association fees and mismanagement. I sold my unit just a short time ago as I needed a main floor unit. When I lived there, nearly every month, some young renter moved out and left heaps of furniture in the dumpsters, damage to the common areas, and units that almost always needed interior repairs, examinations, deep cleaning, costing the management money for repairs and changes in locks and communications. The list can go on, but the point is, it's true, apartments are not a wise idea for this town. Even if the developers think there won't be children in their apartments, there will be some, especially if there is a pool. There will definitely be a need for increased first responders. Several times a week, we needed first responders to our building or something, anywhere from domestic disturbances, injuries, health complications, violations of law, vandalism, theft, etc. It will happen, and Roselle first responders will be hopping between Chateau and this metro complex regularly. Chateau is only 100 units, and we had police or fire at our complex often. I don't know what their numbers are now, but it was common to see them outside all year, several times a week, even on Christmas. Imagine the uptick in numbers of 911 calls for a 293 unit complex. Another point to mention is many businesses are telling employees that they will not be going back to the office even after COVID. This has become a regular part of discussion for many office workers. Many businesses realize the advantage of employees working from home. It saves company money in ways they didn't realize before. Some people in the Schaumburg social groups have discussed this. Some are transitioning to 100% working from home from now on and will no longer need to commute. There are some that will return to commuting and flying, but the majority are not. This begins to change the future outlook of our lives and workplaces in general. Most people in suburbs still need cars to do grocery shopping, visiting friends and family. Our train doesn't even bring us directly to O'Hare as it should, and the Pace bus is still limited. My question then is, how will the developers continue to draw in young people year after year who will not take care of the property, ride the train, and not need a car? Because this complex does not offer enough parking for residents, visitors, boyfriends, girlfriends, parents, and friends. And what are the fees for after several years for repairs to the building, including the parking garage? Also, concerns about permits by O'Hare and Schaumburg Airport are the height of this complex. Despite O'Hare having new paths of runways, was brushed over as though it was a ridiculous concern. If you listen back, they admitted to being permitted for one airport, but not having a permit for the other, and that it wouldn't be a problem. They brushed it off. Well, the other high complexes in the area were built prior to the flight path changes. This building will be new since that time, and the new runway flight paths run right over that complex. I moved just after the path was changed and the planes were coming low right above the metro station. The level of noise for residents will be problematic. Will they fit the units with special windows? And will anyone be able to open their windows? An additional issue is the train exhaust. The exhaust from the train is all day, even at 3 a.m., the night freight train. My unit used to be facing the train station across from Sternberg, and the plume of smoke every time a train stopped and restarted was nauseating. There is no way this is healthy for anyone that leaves their windows open. It is already a scientific fact that people who reside in close proximity to trains and large roadways have higher incidences of cancer and fertility problems. Personally, I think it's a health risk for so many people living this closely to the station. I learned of this from my own RE physician as a patient. Also, I don't see how apartments with this many new residents is a good long-term idea for downtown. Roselle has been a place where people want peace and quiet with some decent small shops. We want a central grocery store, not 300 plus more residents jammed into a congested corner. There may be a few people who want Roselle to become an Arlington Heights, but most of us do not. Some people who want progress responded that if we want peace and quiet, we should move to the boonies. But my response is, if you want Arlington Heights or the city life, then you move to Chicago or Arlington Heights. Don't ruin the peace that is already here, because once you ruin it, there isn't any going back. The town doesn't need to remain in the dark ages, but it doesn't need to be trashed with a complex that looks like a dingy high-rise prison. I was raised here in Roselle and know that the majority of people are here because it has been quiet and not congested. We do not want the congested atmosphere of the other towns, or we would have already moved there. My husband has a home in Chicago and he used to live in and now rents out, and he hates going there to maintain it. It's a thorn in his side. There is a reason we live here and not there. We want quaint and quiet. We are not here to change Roselle into something we can get by moving further east. We live here instead to be away from that. We hope the board will reconsider their plans and not agree to build this complex in this location. Please listen to the residents and hear their concerns before damaging the property and changing the dynamics of this town. Thank you for your time, Cynthia Canchola Guzman. A moment.
Yeah, you want to take a break? I'll take the next one.
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks, Andy.
No problem. The next submission was from Carol Marshall. And again, it's the building apartments by Cherry Street in Lawrence. The building proposed can negatively impact the individual home values in the neighborhood. The apartments can be turned into Section 8 housing at any time in the future, affect the value of the established homes, reflects on urban lifestyle instead of bedroom community, safety concerns for establishments, resident community, increased traffic volume, create hazardous side streets for our children walking to school, playing in the local parks. Does not reflect our family community. We do not wish to be Chicago or any other urban community. And then I'll go for the next one too.
Sure.
The next one was for Amy Johnson, and that was for the Metro 19 traffic. Traffic along Cherry Street from Lawrence to Grandview has increased since the population of the Bulldogs has grown. I can't spit it out. From Bulldogs has grown. People frequently speed down the Cherry Street, and we never see police presence monitoring speeds of 25 miles an hour. Kids live on these short portions of the street, and I am very concerned about increased traffic from the new development and improve metro access. Was Cherry Street considered in the traffic survey? What impact is expected in our neighborhoods? What commitment might we expect from the Roselle Police Department in terms of helping us control speeders down Cherry? We've been told in the past we cannot have a speed bump due to EMS routes, but we have an ongoing safety concern. Thank you. That's all I have. Patty, did I miss any?
No, I'm looking here in the chat.
More.
We have one from
Pete Pellegrino.
hold on.
Jeff, do you have that one?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, what you get?
I'll read it then. This is from Pete Pellegrino. Has a detailed analysis been performed of the impact of such a high density development, evaluating the following? 1, the economic benefits of this development compared to other uses for the land, considering the limited availability of land within the village, taking into consideration that such a small percentage of property related taxes actually flow to the village. Number 2, the social, environmental, and traffic impact of such a high density development within such a confined space and its relative proximity to the train station. If they have, can we be provided a copy of these reports? And if not, will they be done before final approval of the project? That's it, Andy.
I have one more that's on the chat.
Please.
Okay, it's from Scott. It's from Scott and Jenny. I don't see a last name. They state, we would like to submit a public comment either in text or orally. My wife Jenny and I have been in touch with the trustees in regard to the exterior trucking project being permitted by Schaumburg at the border of Rodenberg Road bordering Roselle. We have done all we can to inform our neighbors in Turnberry Manor directly south of the development, but have found that the public comment period was not fully communicated soon enough to our community. A package received 15 to 20 days into the public comment period. We have submitted our request for hearing to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but hope to receive an update on Roselle's current opinion and status of potential concern or objections. This is a very detrimental project to Roselle, our health, the parks, remaining wetlands, roads, etc., but may not have considered our presence. Are there any updates available on this project and concern/objections? We have a letter we submitted that can be put in the record if allowable. Thank you for your time. Okay, so this was regarding the Experior trucking project, apparently. So, and that's
What I'd like to do is I would like to carry this on to the presentation. Hopefully, a lot of these questions and comments that have been made will be answered in the question and an answering process during the presentation of the Metro project. As far as the trucking development in Schaumburg, I would like to express to the community and to the village board that we are in communications, and we do have a meeting that will be set up in the upcoming week to meet with Schaumburg to find out more information so we can share that with the trustees and the public about where Schaumburg is at and what's going on, and guarantee that myself and I can speak for the village board, will look at for every interest what would benefit the village of Roselle's residents. Okay, moving on, I would like to ask for a motion for the presentation of this evening's agenda.
So moved.
And I'll need a second.
Second.
And Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
Trustee Sarno.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Okay, moving on to officials and staff report. I guess I'll go first, and I would like to call for a motion to adopt a resolution extending the declaration of the local state of emergency approved by the village board on December 7th, 2020.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
Trustee Sarno,
Aye.
Trustee Pulaski.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. I'd also like to ask for a motion to pass an ordinance ratifying the mayoral executive order during the declaration of the state of emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Madam, any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Sarno,
Aye.
Trustee Pulaski.
Aye.
And our motion is carried. Okay, moving right along. Any village trustees have anything to report this evening? Okay, I see none. Village clerk,
No report.
village attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of items on the agenda tonight. Agenda item 14C, which is the resolution approving the preliminary plat of subdivision for the Metro apartments. Page 284 of those materials, subparagraph C, I would recommend that we add the word FOR in the second line prior to the phrase "a final plat of subdivision." It eliminates any ambiguity that may exist as to whether we're talking about the final plat or the preliminary plat in that paragraph. Next item, Mayor, would be 14E. Those are the final MR19 plans. In the RDA agreement, the development agreement, the definition of that phrase, final RDA plans, we should add the word and, A-N-D, in front of the word adopted in the third line. In the RDA again, paragraph 5B, Romanet 1, period, at the end of that paragraph, and a semicolon, so it runs into the next series of conditions. And finally, in paragraph 6A of the RDA, section 7 should actually be a reference to section 6. And I have nothing further, Mr. Mayor, with regard to an attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Knippen. Village Administrator.
No report.
Okay, Chamber Conference Liaison, Mr. Dumpy.
Well, Andy, not much happened during Christmas, but we have a board meeting coming up next week, so I can fill you in at the next board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Dumpy. Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda, all items listed on consent agenda to consider to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial in nature, and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items. If I can have our village attorney give us a summary of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On tonight's consent agenda, we have approval of the village board minutes of December 7th, 2020. The adoption of an IDOT resolution authorizing expenditures in the total of $1,500,000 of motor fuel tax funds in 2021 for street improvements. The approval of the final payment for the 2020 street pavement patching program in the amount of $2,112.25. The approval of the 11th partial payment for the Devlin Influent Pump String Improvements Project in the amount of $626,651.62. Authorizing you, the next item is authorizing you as mayor to execute an amendment to a contract between the village and HR Green for building inspector services. Item 7F on the agenda is consent agenda is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a grant award between the village and Bloomingdale Township Mental Health in the amount of $100,000 to provide counselors for the police department. And finally, the adoption of a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with Fayette County Mental Health for the behavioral health support services. That completes the consent agenda for tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Knippen. Can I have a motion to accept the
So
consent?
moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Okay, and consent agenda has been approved. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda under administration. Trustee Sarno, we have nothing for you this evening. Under fire, trustee Eichels, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Ford F-550 truck with rescue body from Maintainer Custom Bodies in the amount of $128,000, $128,169.
Second.
Any discussion?
In the budget.
It was in our budget?
Yep.
And it's under budget. Is that correct, chief?
Yes, it is, sir. We have about $130,000 budget for it. It's $128,000. The manufacturer has agreed to hold the cost on the manufacturing of the body from the last year's bids when we put it on hold. The only increase right now is the additional cost for the new model year for the Ford chassis. And the reason that we would like to get it done right now, obviously the one vehicle is getting older, but Ford is cutting off their chassis orders at the first 2 weeks of February. And if we don't order now, we have the potential of having to wait till a 2022 chassis, which we are being told is they're re-engineering. That's why they're cutting off early this year, which would mean a substantial re-engineering at the rear of the body. So most cost effective for us to do it right now.
And the next closest bid was at 166. Nice job, I would say, on obtaining this bid and getting it taken care of. All right, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Sarno.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
And our motion is carried. Anything else under fire this evening, Mr. Arkin?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moving right along, under police, Mr. Dumpy, please.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Board, I'd like to make a motion to affirm the purchase of 24 Cradle Point wireless cellular modem extension docks from SHI International Corporation in the amount of $3,273.84.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Trustee Domke,
Hi, Patty.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
and trustee Eichholz.
Aye.
Our motion is carried. Anything else under police this evening?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, there is not.
All right, under finance, Mr. Trejo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for December 15th, 2020 in the amount of $1,609,354.73.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz.
Abstain.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for December 2020 in the amount of $943,024.39.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, a roll call, please.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Domke,
Abstain.
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
and trustee Sarno.
Aye.
And our motion is carried.
And I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for January 11th, 2021 in the amount of $2,121,734.36.
Second it.
Any discussion? Once again, Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz.
Aye.
And our motion is carried.
Hold on, trustee Poleski.
Aye.
All right, ahead of you.
That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Under community development. Trustee
All
Poleski.
right, Mr. Mayor. So we have 6 motions tonight. Before we jump to any of the motions, we'll have a series of reports from staff as well as the developer. And I think there'll be the opportunity to kind of address a lot of the questions we had earlier. So to get us started, if we could have Jeff Odell just give us a quick overview of what it took to get us to this point tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Pulaski. This goes back to probably 2016 when the village board adopted its updated comprehensive plan with a goal of maximizing higher density residential next to the Roselle train station and construction of a public parking garage for train ridership and town center users. The plan was updated, further kind of expands on the initial goal from our 1995 comprehensive plan for redeveloping our downtown, but with the new plan connecting our downtown now to the east side of the community near the Metro train station. As a follow-up in 2018, the village board adopted its most recent strategic plan, placing a greater emphasis on economic development and establishing a priority and other various initiatives for redeveloping the East Irving Park Road corridor. In January of 2020, as you know, last year at this time, the village board passed 3 ordinances establishing the East Irving Park Road TIF district and redevelopment plan. And then came February of 2020, and Abjaris and Associates, who are with us here tonight, presented the village board with a proposed plan of its intent to proceed with a transit-oriented development adjacent to the Irving Park Road and Lawrence Avenue intersection and just north of the Roselle train station. This proposed project is probably the most complex development in the history of the village, requiring an extensive cooperation and collaboration between public and private partners, such as the village, Abjaris and Associates, Metra, BMO Harris Bank, Sternberg Lighting, and permitting agencies like IDOT and the IEPA. Vetting of this project's planning, zoning, and financial impact on the community has occurred in extents with village staff, consultants, and the recommending bodies of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the TIF Advisory Commission. As David noted, tonight the village board is asked to consider 6 separate actions regarding specific recommendations from its Planning and Zoning Commission and its TIF Advisory Commission and staff. David, staff, along with representatives of the Avgeris team, are ready to present and answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. So as Jeff had mentioned, this went before planning and zoning. So I know we have some commissioners even on the meeting today, but our planner, Karen Bricks, will give an update of the recommendation given by the board. Karen?
So as you guys know, there are several requests as part of this project, which is typical of having a large project such as this. Our zoning code allows a planned unit development, a PUD, which allows for flexibility from the code so the developer can have greater design standards basically for the project. So there's a zoning map amendment from B2 to B3, which is our town center district. There's a special use permit for dwelling units in the town center, a special use permit for buildings exceeding 45 feet in height, and then the PUD itself, which has several exceptions for parking variations, rear yard setback for the apartment building, a front and rear yard setback for the garage structure, and then floor area ratio for variation, and then several lighting variations. The YouTube link is available on the village's YouTube page if anyone would like to view the public hearing process, but the Plan Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the project under several conditions, which are laid out in the staff report. Again, these conditions are typical for a project of this size and basically include that final plans and engineering are reviewed and approved by staff prior to building permit issuance. And then there was a request from Plan Commissioners to include conditions in the lease for items displayed on balconies to sort of discourage visual clutter on the balconies that'll be facing the exterior of the building. To go into, I think, some of the questions that were received in the chat, if that's okay. The airports did not need to review the project in relation to height due to the distance they are away from both the Schaumburg and O'Hare Airport. We also have had some internal discussions regarding traffic from this project since the public hearing. The main concerns, I think, are Roselle Commons, the shopping center directly across the street on Lawrence from the center. I think a lot of the backup of traffic that occurs on Lawrence is partially due to the configuration of the parking lot and access drives to that shopping center. Due to the pandemic, staff can't really do a thorough traffic analysis of that area just because traffic volumes are still much lower than they were even a year ago. So staff is sort of working up ideas of things that we can do. And then as construction begins, we'll be able to evaluate a more realistic sense of what is going to be the impact of this project on that intersection and what we can do working with the property owner of the shopping center to make improvements for general traffic flow. I think the staff reports, all the various staff reports sort of sum up everything really succinctly. So if you guys have any questions of staff of me for zoning issues, I'm here.
Great, thank you, Karen. And then finally, before we open it up to any questions that we might have, I wanted to have Tim from Avgeris just give an overview from the developer side of this project. So Tim?
Yeah, thanks, David. as Jeff mentioned, it's almost a year ago now that we presented our concept to this board. We're very excited about the project. We have numerous projects nationwide, and we think that this is going to be a great development for the village of Roselle. We did a sister project like this in Aurora, right on the train station. It's a TOD site, 232 units, called Metro 59, and it's an outstanding project. This project has 293 units, high-end luxury apartments. To address the one comment on hanging things over the balcony, that we don't allow that at our developments. These developments need to look pristine. They need to attract young professionals, downsizers, divorcees, people that want a high-end community or luxury type community with nice finishes that are going to only boost the local community. And from February of last year to now, we have enlisted the assistance of BSB Architecture, Semcon Civil, KLOA Traffic, Market Studies. We have gone through the list of consultants and professionals to help us drill down and properly size and develop and make sure this development is not only going to be a benefit to the community, but it's not going to cause harmful impacts. And I have all those professionals on tonight with us. If there are any questions in regards to traffic, KLOA is on, Louis Abunya, who has done numerous projects, who could speak to in depth to the traffic study that he performed on the development, as well as BSB in the architecture, and that it's the style that we chose and the design features that are going to make this project stand out and only be a positive to the community. So in closing, I just want to say I really appreciate the village's help in getting to this point. Mayor Maglio and Administrator Jeff O'Gell with Public Works, Karen Young, Kristen Mell, and Karen Bricks. We really appreciate your help, and if there's any questions that we could specifically address, let's answer those now.
So I believe at this point, if there's any questions from the board at this point, if those questions are there, let's ask some of these people before we get to the motions, because we'll get into the nitty gritty at that point. So I don't know, Andy, did you have anything you wanted to add before we went into any of that?
No, I'd like to hear from the board, and then we'll hear from the board first, and then see if we have any participants in that would like to add or speak. Anybody?
Yeah, so Tim, thanks for that brief overview. I mean, I think what you just talked about, having the experts on, from your end, they've been on this entire meeting. So I wonder if we could just do a round robin from all the experts on your side to kind of address, some of the commentary from the public comments, as well as what was in the board packet or the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. If you could maybe, if like the traffic expert can just give a brief, synopsis of his point of view and the engineering and architecture, et cetera.
Sure. I'll start with traffic. That seems to be the biggest topic. Louis, if you want to take over and just kind of give a brief synopsis of your traffic study that you performed on the project.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, my name is Louis Abuna, A-B-O-N-A. I'm a principal with KLOA. My firm performed the traffic study for the proposed development. I may just want to add that we worked very closely with staff and with your consultant. We went through a couple of changes and reviews with the traffic study, and we addressed all the comments and concerns that were raised. And I believe that as a result, the traffic study was approved. Furthermore, the traffic study was also submitted to IDOT. IDOT's interest in reviewing this study was to look at the intersection of Irving Park and Lawrence. And IDOT concurred with the findings of the traffic study and had no any comments or concerns relative to the traffic from this proposed project as it relates to the roadway network. As part of this study, what we normally would do is we do traffic counts, establish what the current conditions are. We did an extensive data collection prior to COVID. So we had counts that represented normal traffic conditions. We looked at the intersection of Irving Park and Lawrence. We looked at the various intersections along the stretch of Lawrence all the way to Morningside Drive, and we captured all the driveways and public streets in between. We had a good understanding of what the traffic is coming in and out of the metro parking lot. We had a good understanding of the surges of the traffic, particularly in the evening when the train events are taking place, and how that impacts the stacking and the traffic in the area. We looked at the generation of the traffic from the proposed development. We would normally base that on trip generation rates that are published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is a widely accepted resource for estimating traffic for these types of developments. And while this is a TOD, and the anticipation is it would be a good portion of the residents using the train to commute to work rather than driving, we were very conservative in our approach, where we assumed all the residents would be driving in and out of the development. We wanted to have that additional layer of conservative approach to make sure that we are studying the impact accurately. And then when we reran the analysis and looked at the reorientation of the traffic with the removal of Rose Drive West and conversion of Rose Drive East to two-way, basic conclusion is, yes, there will be added traffic from the development. However, the roadway network, including the intersection of Lawrence and Irving Park, will continue to operate within acceptable standards. There will be an added delay. There will be increased in some of the, like I said, the delay of in certain movements. But again, they're all going to be within the acceptable standards, and it's not going to create additional congestion where it's going to impact the travel or the travel times of the residents and commuters in the area. The access drive from the garage will be under stop sign control. Rose Drive East will be rebuilt, so it will have a 3-lane cross section approaching Lawrence. So we'll have a 1 lane going in southbound and 2 lanes exiting, a left and a right turn lane, again under stop sign control. And our analysis showed that even with surges in traffic, the exiting movements at Rose Drive East will resemble what's happening today at Rose Drive West in terms of stacking and delays. So it's not going to be anything additive. It's going to be very similar. It's just the shifting of the traffic further east away from the signalized intersection of Irving Park and Roselle. With that, I conclude my presentation. If there are any specific questions you want me to address, if I haven't, I'm happy to do it.
Any trustee has a question for traffic? Okay. David?
Do we have I didn't have a question, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, just piggybacking on my earlier question, just maybe can we have someone talk about the design? I know during the public comment there was some questions about the design, and I just saw on the chat, Alex Guzman was asking about why not 2 to 3 stories versus 5, and then what constitutes a professional when screening who rents the property. But like I said, those 2 questions, but then also just the design components that were mentioned earlier as well.
And I can add to some of those questions. I'll let Doug Worth with BSB Architecture kind of go into how he came up with the design of development.
Thank you, Tim. As he said, Doug Worth, BSB Design Architect. With all projects like this, we start with the site. In this case, we understand it's a prominent site, and we understand the importance of creating something that adds to the character of the community of Roselle. We want to create an identity that is distinct and unique, but also at home. We wanted this to be something that has a contextual, but also a regional appropriateness. So it felt in design that a reflective mix of both old and new architecture made sense. So the design we arrived at was a blend of sort of modern forms with more traditional materials and colors. The design certainly takes cues from traditional brick warehouses. These are the types of buildings that historically we would see converted into rental apartments, residential type dwellings. So it felt like an appropriate way to tackle this project, to say it has those historical elements, but it certainly has a fresh take on it. Ultimately, we felt like it's a good solution. We feel like it's a good contribution to the community. Happy to field any specific questions. Obviously, design is a subjective matter, but we felt that this was a very appropriate avenue to take.
Tim,
Tim,
yeah, go ahead.
do you mind if I jump in, Tim? This is Joe Mashik with BSB Design as well. I wanted to jump in simply because Tim and I had been working on this since late 2017, early 2018, and have gone through several iterations of the design. And I want to, most importantly, I want to say that we first took a look at your comprehensive plan from 2016 and really used that as a roadmap to get to where we are today, as far as the plan wanting to increase the amount of high density residential near the train station. The plan also identifies a 4-story garage structure, and so the size of the building actually really does relate to a lot of the discussions that are laid out in the comprehensive plan. And so the way that we designed the building and situated the building was to optimize the importance of the site and what you see from the train station and from Irving Park Road. And the building itself shields the parking garage from the most visible aspects of the site, which is Lawrence Avenue and Irving Park Road.
And Tim, did you want to wrap that up and just address the comment about the 5 stories versus 2 or 3?
Yeah, and unfortunately, where land and construction costs have gone today, a 3-story project here is too difficult to finance and develop. 5 stories, adding those additional units kind of gets us there. And then on top of that, this is a TOD site, an infill site. These sites that we've done in the past, they're great for TOD commuters. I mean, I know things are different right now with COVID, but at some point in the near future, they'll get back to normal. And we're a long-term investor here. We're not going to let this building go downhill. This is in our best interest to maintain this property, make sure it's occupied. We build in renovating costs. I mean, one of the comments was, as young renters move out of buildings, they destroy these units. Well, that's built into our rental rate. We understand that we're going to have to repaint and refinish and potentially refloor or redo some of these units. So this is a long-term investment by Avgaris. We're bad sellers, and we expect to completely invest in this development for the long term. So,
Tim, to add to that, we hire a professional management company it's called Village Green. They're not on the call here, but they have 40,000 units around the country that they manage, and they manage they will manage this property very well and maintain it properly.
Thanks. And Tim, just to clarify, TOD is transit-oriented development for anyone following along. So that's just the proximity to a development to mass transit or walkability. So I have on my list Wayne, then Bruce, and then I want to go to the chat comment if that's okay for you guys. Wayne, starting off with you, did you have a question?
Well, Tim hit a couple of them, because the one thing I wanted them to reassure us is that it wasn't going to deteriorate into a slum. You're already building luxury apartments. These are fairly high rents. And you have a management team that's professional and are going to watch out for the balcony issues and such. I also wanted to say quickly that the P&Z meeting on November was an outstanding meeting. And anyone that wanted to really find out how this was vetted properly would be watching that 2.5-hour meeting. And it answered so many of these questions that people have come out with. But can you still reassure us that this will be a building that will be a longstanding, good building? The fact that you came to us, we didn't necessarily come to you. You came and you're calling this particular project the highest and best use for this property. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Can you deal with that a little bit? And also that you are locally oriented to Roselle. You're not coming from Oakland, California or something.
I was just going to add to that, Wayne, that, you know, it's in my best interest that
All right, gentlemen.
that the development, you know, is its highest and best use, because I live in the community. I want Roselle to succeed. I want more restaurant opportunities and shopping opportunities in downtown Roselle. I think this is just going to bolster and benefit the downtown neighborhood. And you're going to have more options. You're going to have, you know, 400 new residents spending their money in Roselle. That's going to prop up all these businesses that have just been decimated by COVID. And it's going to be a huge win for not only the village and the community, but, you know, all parties involved. And to further add on to what you say, we're long-term investors. It's in our best interest that this development stays pristine and stays attractive, so that new renters can come in, rent space, and enjoy where they're living. So did I cover all those questions, Wayne? I think I did.
I think so. And even with the economy being as it is, you still have the foresight to believe that this is still a good investment.
Yes, we've still stuck by our commitment. We think this is going to be a great investment, and we have stuck by it. Yes.
Bruce, I have you down next.
Thanks, David. There's one thing that I think I'd like to just put a feather in Tim's hat there for a moment is something that struck me was when we talked about the other developments that they had. It is my recollection, Tim, that you guys still own all of the other developments. I think the one that I actually went and drove out by was in the Elgin area, I think it is. But anyway, my point being is, I believe you still hold on to some of, you still have quite a few of those developments of which you're proposing to put here in Roselle.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, Stu, maybe you can comment on this, but we have like 3,000 to 3,500 apartment units from Minneapolis, Detroit, Kansas City, Aurora, Kentucky.
It was Aurora, the one that I drove by. That's
okay. Yeah, and that's kind of our sister project to this. We call that Metro 59. It's a TOD right on the Route 59 train station. We see these two projects as very similar. The benefit to this project is it's in a downtown setting and is more walkable, is more transit oriented, friendly. Stu, if you want to add to any of that.
No, I think you hit it all on it. So we like to own these, we like to keep them, and we like the cash flow year after year.
And I don't know if I've mentioned too that, I mean, this is an $80 million investment in Roselle. This is a very sizable investment that we're making, which will only benefit Roselle.
So that being said, my real point of bringing in question is, can we talk a little bit about the concern? I think it was the very first public comment that had to do with the parking garage, the maintenance, the building this to ensure that it is a development that's withstanding, because it then becomes property of the village, unlike the apartment complex of which you've spent a lot of time talking about putting your time and effort in. And maybe that's a combination of Jeff and you, Tim, because again, this one concerns me only because the village ultimately will own this this piece of the development.
Absolutely. So what in partnership with the village, we're making a long-term commitment to leasing back stalls on this parking garage for the use of our residents. Just as it's in our best interest to maintain those units and that apartment complex, the same is true for the parking garage and the maintenance of that parking garage. And it needs to remain bright, clean, accessible. It's also, I think, in the public's best interest because there's about 156 Metro stalls that are going to be dedicated in this garage. And Jeff, maybe you want to touch on this a little bit, but I think it's in everyone's best interest for this garage to be clean and usable and attractive.
Yeah, and I'll save most of my comments for the last item on the agenda related to the parking lease agreement, Bruce. But clearly, when you look at that agreement, it builds in rental fees, leasing back to the developer approximately 395 spaces at a monthly rent. We both have used the premium consulting firm on these elevated garages, Walker Consultants, both on the developing, the design, but also on the maintenance side of things. So we have developed annual maintenance costs for preventive, routine, and all other maintenance costs. And I think as typified in that agreement that you'll be asked to consider later, I think we cover both the rental side of things, the maintenance costs, but also the long-term commitment we have to keeping that garage in good shape.
Thank you, David.
All right. I know I want to get back to some of the questions in the chat. So I don't know, Tim, if your traffic consultant's available just to provide some clarification about some of the side streets. I know the traffic study was done up to Morningside, I believe it was, and you would have tracked any entrance or pull-offs off of some of these side streets, but you didn't specifically monitor the traffic on the side streets such as Cherry that's being mentioned, correct?
Louis, can you expand on that?
No, Cherry Street was included in the analysis. We did monitor the Cherry Street and the Lawrence Avenue intersection, and that was included in the analysis. So traffic entering and exiting that street was incorporated in the analysis.
And when you did your projections based off the new traffic, how much did that impact that specific street, if you recall offhand?
I mean, based on the results of the analysis, the delays coming out of Cherry Street will remain about the same. I just want to add that when we do our traffic studies, we do not look at the impact of the development in a vacuum. We account for future growth that would occur in the area. So built into the analysis is additional traffic that would increase naturally on Lawrence and Irving Park. And even under that scenario, the analysis showed that traffic exiting, turning left or right out of Cherry Street, can continue operating at the same level of service and the same amount of delays.
Okay, thank you so much. And I don't want to throw anyone off guard, but Kristen, I know when we've talked about the traffic from our end, I assume when we revisit it, we'd look at some of these side streets as well as a part of that once we get back to more normal traffic patterns.
Yeah, I mean, their report did really cover the exiting traffic patterns and how the actual intersection functioned. But yeah, if there are overall speeding concerns and things like that on Cherry, we can definitely look into that more along with PD once traffic patterns resume.
Great.
Normal operations.
Okay, thank you. And Karen, I think you probably have the best visibility to this one question as far as the apartment complex that went in on Irving Park. I know when we drive by, at least, I see that there's a lot more things on the balconies and I'm seeing people walk their dogs and cars there. Do we have any idea as far as, the percent leased out or the viability of how that project has gone?
I don't know the percentage leased out. I was actually just trying to look up water billing accounts just to double check when I saw that comment. But they did open basically right when the pandemic hit. They were, I think, sort of negatively impacted by people staying at home, people not wanting to move out of their apartments and relocate. But they do have a steady stream of renters, and they have their temporary certificate of occupancy while they work up on finalizing some of their final improvements to the development.
Thank you. And how many units total was that again?
72 2-bedroom, 2 bathrooms.
Okay, thank you. So slightly different configuration as far as size to this development, plus no amenities included besides just leasing, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? All right. And I think we've addressed the chats, the questions in the chats. So I'm going to go ahead and start to move to the motion. So, Mr. Mayor, I move to pass an ordinance rezoning property and amending the Village of Roselle zoning map from B2 Convenience Shopping Center District to B3 Town Center District.
I'll second.
Sorry, Mr. Domke, did I speak over you?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe so.
Okay, did you second it?
I did, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
And our motion is carried.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move to pass an ordinance approving a special use permit for dwelling units in the town center, a special use permit for buildings exceeding 45 feet in height, a special use permit for a planned unit development, and a PUD exceptions in the B3 Town Center District.
Second again.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Our motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution approving a preliminary plat of subdivision for the Metro 19 apartments as changes adopted, recommended by the village attorney.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just say one thing since it's related and I see it in the chat. I know one thing that I personally struggled with when we first were looking for a place in Roselle after graduating from college, and feedback I consistently hear from people is it's very difficult to find a place if you're a young professional who is not ready to buy a house. The apartments that we do have available sometimes aren't necessarily what they're looking for. And I think, I hear a lot of feedback regarding that, and it helps address, in my personal opinion, a shortage that we have to get people who are younger who don't want to live in the city, that do commute downtown and, are going to become future homeowners at some point. And why not get them in now and have the amenities that they're willing and looking for? And I think there's always a chicken and the egg issue for us. We want to have more shops, we want to have a grocery store, but we don't have enough demand. So we need to generate demand somehow. And this is a way to kind of help spur that. So just to address some of that in the chats that I'm seeing.
Anybody else?
I would add to that point simply from the fact that if you need the restaurants and you want the stuff, you do have to have that. And just because we don't have it now, our strategic plan, if anyone wants to go looking at that, talks about how we want to improve and enhance our Main Street, our Irving Park corridor, and all the rest. So this is just one step in that direction.
Executives Berkshire. Anybody else? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would please, a roll call.
trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Eichholz,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Our motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution approving a property exchange agreement between the Village of Roselle and the Commuter Rail Division of the Regional Transportation Authority.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I would like to make one comment.
Please.
if you notice in the Daily Herald today, the Glen Ellen is making a walkway between their parking garage and their downtown. See the scheme that goes on when you're near a train layout and a downtown? Other villages are doing it, and I think we're stepping into the marketplace like they are. We're not trying to make an Arlington Heights. We're not trying to make an Elmhurst. We're just trying to make a little bit more in Roselle so that the cash registers go ching, ching, ching. And I mean the business cash registers. We're going to want to get a store here. We've got to have people waiting at the door for it to open.
David?
And just to add on that point, I think Gwen has an excellent point there, but also Glen Ellen also has another mixed-use development that's being considered near their train station with apartments, as well as Geneva's considering another apartment complex near their train station as well. So I think we're seeing this trend continue to sustain itself. So 100% what Wayne said, plus a little more.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I do want to say one thing because I'm sure there'll be a chat on this. It's not just about the money. It is about improving Roselle. We have this in our strategic direct plan. We have this as a means to which to move Roselle and to enhance Main Street, the Irving Park corridor and such. It's not just about the money. It is about truly improving this community.
That is well said, Bruce. Thank you.
Yes, very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Trejo?
just to piggyback off what Bruce said, I definitely agree with what Bruce said. You know, it's not just about the money. It's definitely about improving Roselle. I mean, as a lifelong resident of Roselle, I've been here since 1978. I know things downtown, you know, used to be Sherrill's, Howard's, et cetera. There was naysayers when that got rebuilt, when Mayor Smolinski redid the downtown. And quite frankly, I was one of them. I was younger, but I was kind of skeptical of the whole thing. And I think, you know, right now we have a lot going on downtown. I know there's also, you know, naysayers when we did the apartment buildings by the train station. And to me, when I go down there, I could see them getting rented out. People were saying the same thing. No one's going to rent them out. No one wants to live there. And then this is going to be the same thing. You know, $80 million is a substantial investment. A company is not going to spend $80 million and just walk away from it. They're going to be committed to the community. And like it was said earlier, we didn't go seek this. They came to us with the opportunity that they saw in Roselle, and they've been great partners so far.
Anybody else? Well, as you all know, I've been around for just a short bit of time, and I have served on many boards. I have seen a lot of growth in Roselle over my times. I think one of the first projects that I contributed to when I was assigned to the planning and zoning was the subdivision of the Odlum Farm, which Gary Avenue sits on now. And I would ask, you know, how many people use Gary Avenue that to go to a destination that's convenient for them to use. I mean, I could remember when Roselle Road was 2-lane and it changed to 4-lane and what it was going to do to our small community. I remember I lived the TIF that for the downtown area. I remember all of what we went through changing all that, and change is very hard for everybody, but all the decisions that I think have been made by our forefathers, most of the decisions that have been made by our forefathers have done nothing but to improve our community. And I feel the growth in our community has a long way to go. And by doing projects like this, by the interest of having people interested in us to do this, there are a lot of ways that we lead in the surrounding community. That's all I had to say. I agree with everybody's comments. Mr. Domke.
Andy, and you know where I'm coming from. I believe in the old Roselle. In fact, I've invested in it. Okay. So we have that in Roselle. We've got a great museum. We've got people that still live here that their family's been here 100 years already. So we have old Roselle, but we have new Roselle coming. And, you know, when the town was only 2,000 people, you didn't need that much fire or police either. Growth requires that you have to do more. But I think that's what we're looking for is a little, you know, more people want to come to Roselle and enjoy the town that we have. And I see making a place where they can come.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay. Madam Clerk, do I need a roll call?
Trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
and trustee Eichel.
Aye.
Our motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and the village clerk to attest to an agreement between the Village of Roselle and 400 Roselle LLC for the redevelopment of the land pursuant to the Roselle East Irving Park Road redevelopment plan, as amended or as changed by our village attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Eichel,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Domke, trustee Domke,
Aye.
and trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Our motion is carried.
And then before I jump into the last one regarding the parking garage lease, Jeff, do you want to speak to the agreement and the nature of it?
Parking agreement or the RDA that you just approved?
Either or.
I think the one missing piece, and not to go backwards because we've approved it, but obviously the developer has requested $14.5 million in TIF financial assistance and waiver of certain permit fees and transfer of land from the village to offset their costs for construction of the public parking garage, to replace 3,000 feet of sanitary sewer force main, and to widen Rose Drive East. As a result of that request, the board retained the services of SB Friedman as its financial consultant to complete a financial feasibility analysis of the developer's financial assistance request and its projected TIF increments and other revenue sources to support the developer's requests. And on behalf of the village, there were two key findings of that. Number one, that the project achieves below market returns without TIF financial support and would likely not yield enough confidence from lenders and investors to attract the capital required to develop the project. And then more important, the project's revenue derived from TIF increment and other revenue sources such as parking rental fees will support the financial assistance requested by the developer. And last and most important, unlike other TIF assistance agreements we've had, the $14.5 million will be used for public improvements to the community. The village will purchase the public garage and use it for its residents of the town, of the development, commuters, and visitors. In addition, the developer will construct the sanitary sewer needed for expansion and development along East Irving Park Road. And once that project is completed and accepted by the village owns that improvement. And finally, the developer will construct and improve Rose Drive East, as the traffic consultant said, improving ingress and egress from the train station and to Lawrence Avenue. So most important, and while my memo, I hope, highlighted the parameters of the agreement, I think it's important for the village board and the community to know that this $14.5 million is going towards public improvements to the community, not to a developer for their improvements. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. I'll move then to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and the village clerk to attest to the parking garage lease, operating and maintenance agreement between the Village of Roselle and 400 Roselle LLC.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Trustee Pulaski,
Aye.
trustee Eichel,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Domke,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
Aye.
and trustee Sarno.
Aye.
Our motion is carried.
That's all I have today, Mr. Mayor.
Is that all?
That's it.
Thank you all.
All right, moving right along then to other business for discussion. Anybody? We do have an executive session.
I would like to recuse myself from that executive session, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. And the purpose of our executive session this evening?
We need a motion to go to exec session, right?
Jim, you're on mute.
Jim, you're on mute.
Jim, you're on mute.
And still on mute.
There,
I guess I'm not accomplishing anything here.
there you are.
I said I was going to try to kill two birds with one stone here. Because I asked first, what's the purpose of the executive session? So I was going to roll them into both. Thank you. So in any event, when the board does make a motion to go into executive session and make a vote on it, it will be going to executive session to review closed session meeting minutes, and no final action is anticipated. Which means that after the executive session, the board will come out and adjourn the meeting.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session.
I'll need a second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
trustee Eichholtz,
Aye.
trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
and trustee Poleski.
Aye.
All right. And we will adjourn and not come back to this meeting because of the virtual. So I thank everybody for participating, and we'll see our members in executive session.
Do we
Thank
need
you
to
very
make a
much.
motion? Do we need to make a motion to adjourn this meeting, or?
You have to wait, Bruce, until after the executive session's over, but the motion does not have to be on Zoom. It has to be public.
Okay,
So,
so we won't be coming back here. That's all I want to make sure.
Thanks all of you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
good night.
Thank you.
Good night.